Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Stroud podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Special guest, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Jake Jones. I'm glad to be here. I'm known as the profiler on LinkedIn. By trade, I'm a senior copywriter, and I was laid off in December of 2023. And since I was encountering a bunch of scams in the job market, I decided to take them on, which has culminated ultimately to date in 31,589 fake jobs taken down and also over 7,000 fake profiles taken off of LinkedIn. So while I look for work, I'm doing what I can to make other people looking for work have an easier time as well.
That is commendable. That is commendable. You're doing God's work. Because I know from personal experience, I have been approached by several of these fake profiles.
Mhm.
Um, some of them suggesting that they could get me a job overnight if I paid so much money, or so many different scams. What are
Yeah.
the different scams that you have seen on LinkedIn?
I mean, it's innumerable, but the most common ones are the resume ATS scam, which is basically they say that they have a job opportunity for you, and it either is a fake job entirely or the job it really doesn't exist. It's just a ploy to get you to send them your resume. So what they'll say to you is, "Hey, you're a qualified candidate. I think you'd be great for this position." You can either talk to them directly or they'll direct you to a Mr. or Mrs. random made up person with a fake Gmail account. And what they'll do is you begin to engage with them via message, and then you send your resume. They'll tell you it failed the ATS. They'll even go as far as sending you a screenshot of what your score is, and it's typically in the 20 to 30 range.
Hmm.
And it's just basically a made up image to say that your resume is low scoring out of a 100% scale. And then you see this low number and think, oh my God, I need help. And then you'll listen to them, send your resume. And then by that time, they can steal your identity with that alone. But what they'll do is they'll get a fee from you to redo your resume to make it ATS compliant. But the ATS is just a filing cabinet. It houses your resume. And then what makes you get called back from the recruiter is your resume is a good match for this position based upon how you've expressed yourself and what roles you've done in the past that would directly relate to the role you're applying for. So it's not about beating the ATS or anything like that. It's about making sure your resume directly matches as much as possible the role you apply to. And so from there, they'll get you to pay money for that and then walk you down this scammer pipeline, I refer to it as. And then from there, it's a long con to get you to apply, to get you to get an offer. And then from there, they get your driver's license and your social security number for the background check. And then they're off to the races.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that's just
So,
one.
but the ultimate goal these scammers all have in common is getting your information for identity theft. That's the ultimate goal for all of them, right?
Correct. Yeah. But lately, what I've seen them do is they'll directly reach out to real hiring managers. They'll directly impersonate hiring managers, recruiters. They'll take their
Wow.
names and put them in Gmail addresses. They'll even directly use their picture, alter their name slightly. Like there's one Salesforce recruiter who is Rochelle Rawls, but they pretend to be her as Rochelle Rawls. So they take the S off the end. They use her picture. They have the signature line and then email, they have a picture of a Salesforce team, but she's not even in the picture, but they're pretending to be her, pretending to have opportunities with Salesforce. So they'll do different modes and different means to get their scams off. And they're getting more direct because of the pressure that I bring to them on the fake profiles and the fake jobs. So they're trying to make it look even more legitimate. But as I always say, the more they try to hide, the more they reveal themselves.
Wow. How, okay, this is really significant in these days and times with the economy being the way it is. People are feeling pressure to find
Mm-hmm.
a job. And so they're more susceptible, I think, to these types of scams. What can
Mm-hmm.
someone do to sort of make sure they're not scammed by these people? I mean, one thing that I do when I get these type of queries in my LinkedIn is I'll look at the profile of the person who sent this to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I look at it and I say, okay, they don't have much of an employment history, but they're saying that
Mm-hmm.
they're VP of something,
Yeah, 10 plus
so
years of
something like
experience,
that.
20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's some other things that users, LinkedIn users can do to sort of protect themselves when these people reach out to them?
It starts psychologically. The quickest suggestion is to slow down. And I know that's counterintuitive to the market because you see these jobs get posted, and then within a few minutes or a few hours, it has hundreds of applicants. And a
Yeah.
lot of that has to do with the auto apply that people do with AI because they're trying to get an edge and get to the roles first because they're so crowded. And what that does is it leads to this sea of sameness because if you're using auto apply, then you're likely using AI to write your resume. And so everybody sounds the same. And so it makes the recruiters and hiring managers' jobs even harder to determine who is actually a real candidate and who is one that took the time to actually do research on the company, research on the position, and make a resume, cover letter, and whatnot that would give them the best shot to get the interview and then ultimately, hopefully, the offer. But slow down because when you're laid off, I call it layoff PTSD because a lot of times we shouldn't do this, but as people, when we work somewhere, we get our identity from that job. We get our purpose from doing that work. A lot of times we work years or decades to get into that field. And so when you're laid off, it's a big blow, especially if you were high performing, especially if you generated results. Like if you were an underperformer, if you were just skating by, there's a part of your mind that can kind of understand why they let you go. But if you just are doing everything, you're taking on additional projects, you're raising your hand anytime you can, and you're a great person to work with, then to be suddenly hit with a layoff is jarring. It makes you question your worth. It makes you question your future because you know likely how bad the job market is. And what the scammers do is they blitz you. They first affirm you by saying how great you are and how you shouldn't be in the job market. And mentally, you're like, yeah, I agree with that. This shouldn't have happened to me. So that gets past the barrier of being skeptical. And because you know all these other things are working on the back end about rapidly trying to get to a role before it gets clogged up with people, you move fast and you think that this is a viable lead. But by then, as I said before, that leads to the resume scam, which leads to the offer acceptance scam, and so on. So slow
Wow.
down, first of all, and thoroughly vet the person that is reaching out to you. And remember that you have power because that's the other side effect of being laid off is you feel powerless and you're trying to be amiable and as likable as possible with this recruiter who you think is real because you don't want to offend them and have them move on to somebody else. And so that's why people move fast and they're overly compliant and they do these test assignments and stuff because they're trying to be as easy of a hire as possible so they can get out of the job market. But that is what leads them to being scammed.
Yeah. I think one way to, and this has worked for me, you let me know if it's worked for you, others in your network. If someone reaches out to me, I look at their connections, like especially if it sounds too good to be true, I'll look at the profile and I'll see their connections. And if they have like 300 people or 200 people connected to them, that sort of gives them a bit more of legitimacy. But then I'll also look at their connections to make sure that they are real themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I may also look at um, how often they post on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, if they have interactions with regular people, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are there other things you can think of that someone can use to sort of spot these pretenders?
With that, specifically, if they have minimal connections like 0 to 40-ish or more, that means that what they've done is they recently created the profile or they've hacked an older profile that was inactive. Because that's the
Mm,
other caveat is that you might think a recruiter is real because they have a verification check mark or because they have content on their profile that looks legitimate because it was once owned by a real person. But I've seen profiles, if they go inactive maybe 2 weeks or more, they're a viable target for scammers to infiltrate. I've just seen it like hundreds of times where each one of these profiles that were real, that are verified, and a lot of them had premium, they're hijacked, sending out messages to people in mass saying the same thing, kindly send a connection request or I'm hiring and all exclamation points, all caps. And the quickest tells for a fake one is minimal connections, no activity, and the about section is either empty for the work that they've done, the career history, I mean, or it's a lot of stuff that looks like it's just AI prompts copied and pasted into it. Because where these scammers fall short is the when you get them off of the scripts and off of the templates and you have to see them talk, because that's why they don't have comments and that's why they don't have history that is actually legitimate. It's all the copy paste stuff because they don't have the ability to articulate themselves to Western people in a way that is understandable, coherent, and professional. They rely on AI to make it look like they're real.
Yeah, so true. I've had one instance where someone, an alleged recruiter, reached out to me, which it was a scammer, but I was curious. And they wanted to continue the conversation. They said, well, let's get off of LinkedIn, let's go onto Microsoft Teams and have a chat there. And then I'll say, okay,
No.
cool. Once you get on camera so I can talk to you, so I can, or when they duck the invitation to be on video,
Mm-hmm.
that's almost always a red flag for me. It's like, how are you going to interview
Yeah.
me and you're not going to even show your face?
Yeah. And that's another thing that's dangerous because what these there are some legitimate companies that do this, but scammers do it as well, where they'll have a one-sided interview where you're being recorded, and what they can do is use you talking and answering these questions, and they can pretend to be you when they apply to other jobs to
Oh,
clog the job
wow.
pipeline. So it's a massive issue, but this is a lot of the motivation as to why they have you recorded because they're abusing the power that companies have because some real companies have abused their own power by having you show up to a meeting. None of them have their cameras on, and you're sitting there talking to black screens. And again, it goes back to the mindset of you trying to be overly compliant and being someone who's easy to work with. So you're like, okay, well, this is awkward, but I'll still do this because it could be the one. Like they're using that hope that you have to abuse you. And like I said, what scammers do is if they record you, like I said, Jim Stroud, if you're being interviewed and you're being asked these basic templated questions, because a lot of companies ask the same questions to every
Sure.
candidate, then they can use you and your responses to actually respond to a real interview process and pretend to be you. Because there's a story I saw maybe a month ago where a woman she found out that she worked for a company for 3 months that she never even applied to. Somebody was pretending to be her and working at this company. And what happened was somebody somewhere had a question and they actually reached out. And then that's how the whole scam fell apart is they actually talked to the real person finally. But yeah, it's a massive problem.
I had not thought about it from that angle before. That is, wow. That is very scary. That is very
Yeah.
scary.
And then lately on YouTube, I'm seeing a lot of AI generated videos. Like I saw one with Kevin O'Leary. He's a guy from Shark Tank,
Yeah.
and it talked about him investing in different things like that. But the mouth was clearly AI generated. There was another one I saw with Dave Ramsey. He's the famous financial coach and whatnot.
Hmm.
And it's an AI generated video of him talking about different strategies he's done to help people make money and save money and things like that. But it was concerning and troubling is because I also saw one with Oprah months back. But it's like, why is this being allowed? These are celebrity figures. Like, why are their likenesses being allowed to be used in AI generated content? Because if you don't know, you'll think these are the real people and you'll click this ad and you'll go to this website and you'll think you're doing business with them.
Yeah. That's my next question. Are these scammers, they're being caught? And if they're being caught, are they being convicted and fined or thrown in jail? I mean, what's the consequence for these people doing these things?
Largely nothing unless the government of the nations that they're in do something. But when you're stateside like we are, a lot of these scammers are out of India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Southeast Asia, different areas like that. And so they're emboldened because they believe that there's no punishment that will come from a legal perspective. But what I do is I blow up their entire operation so that my goal is to have people see them coming before they even type a message to them to try to scam them because you can't make money if you're trying to deceive people and they know exactly how you're trying to deceive them. And so with this work, it is empowering people with the information so that this stuff that should be prosecuted but is not fails ultimately by the people that they're targeting knowing how they're coming towards them. So yeah.
I know that it's possible to block somebody on LinkedIn and to report them. Does that help the
Mm-hmm.
matter, or do they just get another profile?
they'll make another profile, but what happens is the reporting logs it. So there's a record that this profile was reported, but it goes into the ether largely because, the scale of the issue is not acted upon. Like for me, I'm literally an active threat deterrent because when they see me, like when people tag me, then the scammers, they'll just delete the profile because one profile is never the inroad to the situation. Like typically it leads to a fake company, and then that fake company leads to other fake employees, and then it can also lead to real employees that are part of this, and they're deploying these bots and these fake profiles to funnel people into their business quote unquote to scam people. So like literally, if this happened months ago, there was this fake profile called Velma something. Velma's from Scooby Doo, but
Yeah, yeah.
this profile was messaging this woman, and she sent me screenshots of the message, and she said, "I'm telling Jay Jones," and then the scammer was like, "Oh, Jay Jones, huh? I don't think that was necessary." so so yeah,
Well,
they know
you're
me
being
well.
effective.
Yeah,
You're
they
being
know me well.
effective. That's the case.
Yeah.
Now, I know that this is a really bad trend on LinkedIn. I have seen some companies post on their career sites that things like no one from our company will reach out to you from a Gmail account. It will come
Mm-hmm.
from a company email. So
Mm-hmm.
some companies are recognizing that they've been targeted by scammers to be leveraged in scams. What other things are you seeing that some companies are doing to help combat this beyond saying no one from our company is going to reach out to you from a Gmail account? Have you seen
That's
anything like
all
that?
I've seen. That's all I'm seeing, and it's not enough to be honest. Because yes, you can have this disclaimer on your landing page, but by the time someone is getting there, typically they've already sent their resume, they've already interacted with this person via text message and whatnot, and then it's after they stop because, like I said in the beginning, when you're trying to be overly accommodating, when you're trying to act fast, you just move, and then it's like after you get maybe 2 to 3 steps into the process, you start to wonder like, is this person real? Like, why can't I actually call them? Why is there no job requisition with this job? Why is it that this person has no connections? Why are they overly accommodating to me? Like, why is it moving so quickly? And then that's when you get out of the compliant part of your brain into the analytical slash shrewd part, and you start
Hmm.
doing research, and then you see like, oh, there is a fraud alert. Oh, it is comprised of this and this, and I see all of these things that parallel this fraud alert. But this needs to be an active thing that's ongoing constantly because they never stop. These scammers, they'll impersonate Lockheed Martin, Deloitte, Northrop Grumman, Robert Half, pretty much every major recruiting company, every major business they'll pretend to work for. And then they'll confuse the matter because they'll take a picture of somebody that works at one company, the name of someone that works at another. The email will be a reversal of somebody else's name who works at another company. So all of these things are multi-layered to try to deceive people.
Wow. Do they stick with large companies because they feel like they won't get caught because the company is so large?
That's part of it because the smaller companies, they typically have teams that are really like active and looking at what's going on. But the problem with that is even when a small company, because there's this one woman, she's a founder of a writing company, and she had 90 employees added to her business page on LinkedIn, but she's the founder and the only employee. And so when it came time to her to complain and report about these people alleging to work for her, LinkedIn told her that they can't remove individual profiles from being associated with her page. And she, as an admin, doesn't have the ability to delete or remove anybody who is claiming to work for her that does not. And I saw this, and then like the next morning I made a case. It was like 90 plus profiles. I used every link, and in LinkedIn's reporting system it says the only way you can list multiple URLs is if they're all affiliated with the same business or same something or other. And I'm like, well, yeah, they're all claiming to be part of this fake business, the same business. And so they came back and said they don't have the bandwidth to remove every profile.
I think that speaks to how prevalent these scammers are on LinkedIn. Um,
Yeah, but that it's just like when I read that, I had to do a double take. I'm like, you don't have the bandwidth. Like it's clear, like she's the owner. She's telling you they don't work for her. They're scamming people with resume writing services using her business's name, which is hurting her business's reputation. What do you mean you don't have the bandwidth? Like literally, it's
Yeah.
like do the job, do your job.
It's 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 crazy. Um, I think one thing LinkedIn should do is some kind of way verify that people actually work for a company. I mean, I could add Oracle on my LinkedIn profile, and I don't know if anything would happen to me. Probably not. Just some how scammers are able to just create a profile. They should have it where you could people who put company names on a profile should be able to have some kind of verification check on it that said this person has been verified as have been working at this particular company. Do you think LinkedIn would actually do something like that? I think it would boost their credibility even more so, I would think.
I've said this for months. I mean, I've said this back since December/January, December 2023 to January 2024. I noticed that these fake resume writers, which I was focusing on at the time, they would all claim to work for Insight Global or different organizations that are known for being credible at getting people hired. But there's no barrier to entry. And the problem is with the ease of creating a profile, which is meant to benefit real professionals, scammers are abusing that ease by just adding whatever they want. I mean, they'll say they work at Apple, Microsoft, Oracle, Nvidia. Like all these scammers have these dream careers. Like they go from Apple, then they go to Microsoft, and then they go to Nvidia, Oracle, all
Right.
these things. But then they suddenly land on being a recruiter who's trying to get you to send your resume to a Gmail account. And yeah, I mean, they would benefit by doing that, but the problem is they have to admit that this is an issue.
Yeah, and that might hurt their it might hurt their income. Now, I understand you have something called a scam detection guide that people need to definitely check out. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, correct. So I know that people needed to have a resource that is something centralized, so they can reference it when it comes to their job search because it's a lot coming at you, and at the rate that I go, it's a lot to sift through if you're just going through my posts and content. And so I created a guide, volume one now, where you can quickly access that. It's free in the featured section of my profile on LinkedIn. You can download that. I'm currently working on volume two that will have a fee attached to it, and it goes deeper into how the fake profiles are set up, how they actually work in multiple ways to scam you if the initial attempt doesn't work, and then even deeper into how profiles get hijacked, how companies can be complicit in this without knowing it, and then how you being a victim of a layoff can actually perpetuate your own scam by looking at it in a way. Let me start over.
Yeah, yeah, we can do it again. Okay, I'll try it. 3, 2, 1. So I understand that you have a scam guide that people need to check out.
Yeah, correct. I created a centralized resource. I call it Volume One because Volume Two is coming soon. But Volume One is free and it's a guide where you can get from my feature section on my profile, and it'll help you quickly reference the different scams that are out there so you can be safe while you look for your next role. Volume Two will have a fee attached to it. It delves deeper into fake profiles, the psychology behind scammers, and the ones they target, hijack profiles, and then exclusive lists of what I've collected over the year plus work of where these scammers pretend to work, where they pretend to have attended, and their methodology and their approach to scamming people. So it is a valuable resource, and I'm looking forward to getting it out soon.
Very, very cool. To make it easier, I'm going to leave a link in the podcast description. So if you're listening to this podcast, just go to the podcast description. There'll be a link there where you can check it out and download it. Wow, this is fascinating. I think we could go on this for hours, but we have limited time. If somebody
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
get in contact with you to get more information, especially if they want someone like you to come speak to their organization, I know you do a lot of public speaking on this
Correct.
topic.
Yeah.
How can they find you online?
Yeah, so my email is Mr. Jones at jonesdoyoucopy.com. On LinkedIn, it's linkedin.com/in/jonesdoyoucopy. I speak to different organizations and teams to help them work on knowing what to do when it comes to scam prevention and knowing how to protect their employees and their brands from being misappropriated or misused in people's scams. Particularly, this affects universities because when it comes to new graduates, they're the ones most targeted because they have no idea what's in this job market. The next most targeted group are the elderly because they don't have, a lot of them aren't tech savvy. A lot of them just don't know what's going on. And then the next group of people that are most targeted are the ones that have been in different organizations for an extended amount of time, 10 plus, 20 plus years, and then they're suddenly laid off. And so the job market they know is not the job market that is what we know, which is rife with scamming. And so what I do is I give people the information to be safer in their job search and get them to real opportunities faster.
Wow. Well, everyone who's listening, do yourself a favor, have this guy come out and speak. He can share even more than what he shared here. Jay Jones, thank you so much for being on the Jim Stroud podcast. You are appreciated, sir.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, my time is up. I thank you for yours. I'll see you again real soon right here with a brand new episode of the Jim Stroud podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached by email at jimstroud@jimstroud.com. And one last favor, if I may ask, please rate this podcast. 5 stars is preferred, but please comment with your honest opinion. I really appreciate that. All right? Okay, until next time, bye-bye.